Hello everyone! We're back with another explanatory video about the latest events in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Is it true that Russia is receiving heavy weaponry from North Korea? Are North Korean weapons the ones killing Ukrainians? We're about to find out, but first, make sure to leave a like, share the video with your friends, and ring the bell so you don't miss any content from the channel. Recently, a young Ukrainian weapons inspector, Kristina Kimachuk, received news that an unusually looking missile had collided with a building in the city of Kharkiv. She started calling her contacts in the Ukrainian armed forces, desperate to get her hands on this strange missile. Within a week, the wreckage was laid out in front of her in a secure location in the capital, Kiev. She began dismantling it and photographing each piece, including screws and computer chips smaller than her fingernails. She almost immediately realized it wasn't a Russian missile, but her challenge was to prove it. Buried amidst the metal clutter and pulled wires, Miss Kimachuk spotted a small Korean alphabet character. Then she came across an even more revealing detail. The number 112 was stamped on parts of the casing. This corresponds to the year 2023 in the North Korean calendar. She realized she was looking at the first concrete evidence that North Korean weapons were being used to attack her country. The inspector had heard rumors that North Korea had delivered some weapons to Russia, but she thought they were just rumors. However, now she was sure, as she could see, touch, and investigate the missile parts launched against her country. Despite recent talk about Kim Jong-un's preparations to start a nuclear war, the most immediate threat now is North Korea's ability to fuel existing wars and feed global instability. Kimachuk works for Conflict Armament Research, an organization that retrieves weapons used in war to find out how they were manufactured. But it was only after she finished photographing the missile wreckage and her team analyzed its hundreds of components that the most stunning revelation came. It was packed with the latest foreign technology. Most of the electronic parts were manufactured in the United States and Europe in recent years. There was even a computer chip from the United States made in March 2023. This meant that North Korea illicitly acquired vital weapon components, sneakily introduced them into the country, assembled the missile, and secretly shipped it to Russia, where it was then transported to the front line and dispatched, all within a matter of months. This was truly a big surprise because despite being under severe sanctions for nearly 2 decades, North Korea still manages to get its hands on everything it needs to manufacture its weapons, and at an extraordinary speed. In London, experts were equally shocked to learn that North Korean ballistic missiles were being used to kill people on European soil. Using satellite images, they were able to observe 4 Russian cargo ships traveling back and forth between North Korea and a Russian military port, loaded with hundreds of containers at a time. In total, it is estimated that 7,000 containers were sent, filled with over 1 million rounds of ammunition and graduated rockets, the type that can be fired from trucks in large salvos. These assessments are supported by information from the United States, United Kingdom, and South Korea, although Russia and North Korea have denied the trade. But it's the arrival of ballistic missiles on the battlefield that worries the world the most. Since the 1980s, North Korea has been selling its weapons abroad, mainly to countries in North Africa and the Middle East, including Libya, Syria, and Iran. They tend to be old, Soviet-style missiles with a bad reputation. There is evidence that Hamas fighters likely used some of Pyongyang's old rocket-propelled grenades in their attack last October 7th. But the missile Kimachuk dismantled was apparently Pyongyang's most sophisticated short-range missile, the Hwasong-11, capable of traveling up to 700 kilometers. While the Ukrainians downplayed its accuracy, Dr. Jeffrey Lewis, a North Korean weapons and non-proliferation expert at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, says they don't seem much worse than Russian missiles. This raises the question of how many of these missiles North Koreans can produce. The South Korean government noted that North Korea sent nearly 7,000 containers of ammunition to Russia, and Pyongyang's weapons factories were working at full capacity. Dr. Lewis, who has studied these factories via satellites, estimates they can produce several hundred missiles per year. Still reeling from the discovery, now the aim is to figure out how this is possible. given that companies are banned from selling parts to North Korea. Many of the computer chips that are integral to modern weapons, guiding them through the air to intended targets, are the same chips used to power our phones, washing machines, and cars. These are being sold worldwide in staggering numbers. Manufacturers sell to distributors by the billions, who then sell them in millions, often having no idea where their products end up. Even so, it's frustrating to know that the missile components came from the West. It is speculated that overseas-based North Koreans set up fake companies in Hong Kong or other Central Asian countries to purchase items using predominantly stolen money. They then send the products to North Korea, usually across the border with China. If one fake company is discovered and sanctioned, another will quickly emerge in its place. Sanctions have long been considered an imperfect tool to combat these networks, but to have any hope of working, they need to be regularly updated and enforced. Both Russia and China have refused to impose new sanctions on North Korea since 2017. By buying weapons from Pyongyang, Moscow is now violating the same sanctions it once voted for as a member of the UN Security Council. All of this has implications far beyond the war in Ukraine. Joseph Byrne, a North Korea expert at the Royal United Services Institute, stated that the world is witnessing the real-time collapse of UN sanctions against North Korea, giving Pyongyang a lot of breathing room. The real winners here are the North Koreans. They have helped the Russians significantly, and that has given them a ton of leverage, Byrne said. In March, the Royal United Services Institute documented large amounts of oil being shipped from Russia to North Korea, while wagons full of what is believed to be rice and flour were spotted crossing the land border between the countries. This deal, estimated in hundreds of millions of pounds, will boost not only Pyongyang's economy, but also its military. Russia could also provide the North with the raw materials to continue manufacturing its missiles or even military equipment, such as fighter jets, and, at the most extreme end, technical assistance to improve its nuclear weapons. Furthermore, North Korea is having the opportunity to test its latest missiles for the first time in a real war scenario. With this valuable data, they can make them better. Even more worrying is that the war is providing North Korea with a showcase for the rest of the world. Now that Pyongyang is mass-producing these weapons, it will surely want to sell them to more countries. And if the missiles are good enough for Russia, they'll be good enough for others, Dr. Lewis said. Especially since the Russians are setting an example that violating sanctions is no big deal. He predicts that going forward, North Korea will become a major missile supplier to countries in the China-Russia-Iran bloc. Following Iran's attack on Israel, the United States said it was incredibly concerned that North Korea might be working with Iran on its nuclear and ballistic weapons programs. This is certainly a bleak problem, but the good news is that now we know how much they rely on foreign technology, so something can be done about it. An example is that by working with manufacturers, it's possible to cut off North Korea's supply chains, as has already happened, and a team has managed to identify and shut down an illicit network before it could complete a critical sale.